No, absolutely. Dr. Iriani, for example, he did mention about that it would take about 5 years before gas could make an impact on Yemen's economy as far as revenue in substituting oil production.
That's suffered.
Right. And you mentioned in your paper that while gas is preferred as an alternative source of energy because of its efficiency and minimal environmental impact, do you see this sector to being able to contribute to Yemen's economy in the near future? The economy itself, aside from just being revenue for the government, but as far as employment and everything.
Only revenue.
Only revenue.
The employment's been done. The mega project that is taking place in Belhaf, which is the liquefied gas project, is already employing a lot of people. It's already done. No more employment. Okay. In fact, there will be less employment because during construction you employ more people than operation.
Absolutely.
So there will be the only impact the sulfur gas will bring to Yemen is through revenue to the national budget, which is very much needed because of the disappearance of revenue from oil.
From the oil
there is no objection. I think that's the government had to do that.
Right.
Okay? And we can debate whether the prices were correct or incorrect. That's not the issue today.
Right.
The issue is strategy.
Right.
Not simple mistakes here and there.
Absolutely.
Now, there will be about 1 TCF of gas remaining not allocated for LNG, for the LG liquefied gas. But that 1 TCF, I think it will be allocated for electricity, and it will have a small impact. It can fire about less than 1,000 megawatt of electricity for the lifetime of the turbines.
Right.
That's very small impact. But major impact, I'm telling you my personal opinion on this, and this is shared by all experts on the business, as far as I know, that the oil and gas sector for the immediate and medium term will have no impact on the economy except as a revenue for the budget, which is very much needed for the stability of the state.
Right, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And I would like to mention some statistics that you provided in your paper that, in my opinion, link directly to this problem between gas and oil production. For example, you mentioned that in 2008, Yemen's energy consumption was based mainly on two industries, transportation and electricity.
Right.
The rate of consumption for electricity was 0.76 million tons of diesel fuel, for example, 1 million tons of heavy fuel. The rate of consumption for the transportation sector was 2.66 million tons of oil, 1.2 million tons of diesel, 1.3 million in gasoline, automobile and airplane, for example, and 17,000 tons of gas, where household consumption was about 8 million tons of gas. Now, this summer, we have seen the real impact of the problem in Yemeni society. While Yemen is not the only country, for example, in the peninsula, suffering from power shortages at this time, Yemenis did suffer the past few months due to rolling power outages. Newspapers, for example, have reported on the millions of dollars spent by Yemenis over the holy month of Ramadan on candles and portable generators, for example, as a result of power cuts. This affected both households and merchants, which is very interesting to see. During Ramadan, the noisy streets with every shop having a small generator outside. Even though the president promised prior to Ramadan, he promised no power outages, we experienced a very dark month. With electricity out over the city of Sana'a, for example, in anywhere between 1 to 3 hours at a time, up to 3 times a day. At the moment, how can Yemen meet these real needs today, social needs from today, even if, let's say, Maariv 1, for example, comes in line in October?
Good. Let me give you a very quick overview of the electricity sector. It's pathetic, really pathetic. It's something that one of the worst thing that we have done in this country. The revolution was successful in the last 4 decades or so in many aspects. Education, for example. Literacy rate has improved in the last 40 years dramatically. Even the rate of births have slightly decreased. But in the energy sector, particularly electricity, our success rate is zero, is nothing. Is actually one of the worst records of any governments in human history, at least to my knowledge, is what we have done in electricity. Currently, this country, the consumption of kilowatt hours per capita is among the lowest in the universe. This is an indicator on the Human Development Index worldwide for development. So it's very low. Compared to, for example, the highest country in the region is Qatar. Okay? They produce a lot of electricity with small population. We're exact opposite. Large population with almost zero electricity. We produce currently, when I was a minister, the production was about close to 1,000 megawatt, 960 megawatt. That includes about 200 megawatt rental energy. Today it's worse. Today it's about around 700 megawatt, including that 200 megawatt. Okay, that's why Marib 1, I mean, the president, and we cannot blame the president. The blame has to go to the planners. Really.
What is stopping Marib 1 from coming online?
There was some difficulties as to the erection of towers in certain areas because of tribal issues, and it was solved. My understanding, they are testing now the turbines, and it will come in. But the question is, even if when Marib 1, which will come in, I promise, I think that's what my understanding. I'm not in charge of it anymore. But when it will come in, it will not solve the problem. It will help the government slightly with the amount of money the government pays for diesel. As you said on the statistics you just quoted, that statistic says that diesel is one of the major energy sources in this country. And guess what? Our refineries do not produce enough diesel. So the government has to buy diesel from the open market.
Right.
Very at the market, international market prices. But the diesel is subsidized in Yemen. Therefore, the amount of subsidy that the government pays for diesel, mostly for electricity, okay, but other, some factories, for example, cement factories use diesel. Right. Electricity and other transportation and agriculture, that's the 3 diesel uses. And the amount of money the government subsidizes is in excess of $3 billion a year. That's very huge bill for this national budget. That's number one. Number two, because of this huge subsidy, corruption must exist. I mean, I'm not saying there is corruption. There will be corruption. There's a saying in Arabic, says the forgotten or left money will be stolen. Right. I don't know if that translation is correct. And I'll say it in Arabic for the Arabic readers. المال السايب يعلم السرقة. You see? So there is a large corruption business in diesel. I'm not telling you something because of facts I know. I'm telling you because it's just logical. If you have that large amount of subsidy, you have a large amount of corruption. So, but
can Yemenis afford not to have those subsidies as well? Automobiles for gasoline, for propane, for electricity at home, the prices were reported in early September that they will increase, for example, in household electricity consumption. The price will increase.
No, there is no increase currently for household. There was some increase in the industrial use.
Will this compensate, decrease the subsidies, or is it just an adjustment?
Let me give you, government cannot increase household prices of electricity, tariffs. The reason is the 1 kilowatt hour from diesel cost. 1 liter of diesel makes 3 kilowatt hours, 3.3. Let's say 3 kilowatt hours with these old machines that you have. The efficiency is not that high. Right. So let's say 3 kilowatt hours. It's actually in some area, power plants less than 3, but let's say 3. 1 liter of diesel, the liter international market varies from 50 cents to $1.20 sometimes. So, on average, let's say 60 cents a liter. That means 1 kilowatt hour would cost the government 20 American cents. That's the price of fuel alone, not operation, not maintenance, not the national grid, not the national grid loss in the grid, which is 25%. So basically, the government cost per kilowatt hour can reach about 70 riyals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's on the average between, let's say, 50 to 70 riyals per kilowatt hour. And the tariff to the citizen at the lower bracket is 4 riyals. Now tell me, how much can the government raise?
Absolutely.
Makes it 5, 6, who cares?
Absolutely.
The gap between the actual price and the sale price for the citizens is so huge. Come on, the only way to do it is to get away with diesel, not to raise the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Diesel has, besides, diesel is very dirty. It's unfriendly to the environment. It's keep the diesel, keep the oil for the applications that you must use them, like agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
There are no pumps for water with gas. There are
Right.
pumps with diesel.
In the countryside, absolutely.
The cars that use gases are not many, or
Mhm.
electricity, but also electricity needs another source of oil, energy. So, this country will not continue to live without getting away from using heavy fuel and diesel for electricity.
How do you see, in your paper you do mention that the shift in the future would be from transportation and household use as being the highest thing, consumer,
Currently.
to industrial.
Assuming we have development. I'm just assuming
Mhm.
God loves us and we love ourselves and we really carry a comprehensive development with this country. If we assume, you realize electricity today only serves about 45% of the population.
Mhm.
And these people who are served by electricity, they're not major consumers. A couple of lamps in a small home. We're not talking about a large house or a factory or a large school, because schools
Mhm.
conduct the business in the
Right.
afternoon,
Right.
during daylight. So the country needs to cover the rest of the population, because every citizen in this country has rights to be serviced with electricity.
Right.
Not free of charge, but service provided. Two, we expect to have development. We have agriculture development. We have industrial development. We expect to have more trade, more tourism. All of this, the amount of energy that we need in the next 5 to 10 years, if and only if we have real development in this country, is more than 10 times what we produce
Today.
today.
Now-
And with that, we must have much, much bigger sources of energy.